I grew up in the shadow of the old Hartwell house, a sagging Victorian relic on the outskirts of Eldridge Hollow, Vermont. The place had been in my family for generations, passed down like a bad heirloom no one wanted but couldn't throw away. My grandfather, Elias Hartwell, was the last one who treated it like a home. He was a wiry man with eyes like chipped flint and a voice that rasped like dry leaves. "Stay clear of the cellar, boy," he'd say, every time I'd lingered too long near the warped oak door in the kitchen floor. Some doors are bolted for a reason. What's down there ain't meant for the living. I was 10 the first time he said it, poking at the rusty padlock with a stick while he pruned the overgrown lilacs outside. He snatched the stick away and stared at me until I felt the weight of unspoken sins pressing on my chest. By the time I was a teenager, it had become ritual, his warning a gravelly incantation before bed, laced with that haunted glint that made me wonder if he'd seen something down there or if it was just the whiskey talking. Dad dismissed it as old man ramblings, but even he never went near the door. "Let sleeping dogs lie," he'd mutter, and change the subject to football or the mill where he worked. Grandpa died when I was 16. A heart attack in the night. They said, found him slumped in his armchair with a half-read Louis Elmore novel on his lap. The funeral was small, the house emptier after. Dad sold off the furniture, rented the place to summer folk who treated it like a quirky Airbnb prop. I went away to college, then a job in Boston, burying the warnings under student loans and bar tabs. Life moved on. The house faded to a vague postcard in my mind. Peeling paint, crooked shutters, and that forbidden trapdoor sealed like a tomb. 20 years later, it pulled me back. Dad's cancer came swift and merciless. Stage 4 by diagnosis. He lingered 6 months, long enough to make me promise I'd sort the estate. The house was his now, or mine by proxy, cluttered with boxes of junk and regrets. I drove up in late September, the Vermont hills ablaze with turning leaves that looked like spilled blood. The air smelled of damp earth and decay, the kind that clings to your skin. I unlocked the front door with a spare key, and the silence hit me like a slap. No creaking floorboards, no distant hum of the ancient fridge. Just echoes. The first week was mechanical, sorting papers, calling auctioneers, dodging realtor pitches. I slept in the master bedroom, the one Grandpa had claimed, with its wallpaper curling like old skin. Nights were restless, dreams of locked doors and scratching sound from below. By day 3, I found the old keyring in a drawer, rusted iron, heavy as sin. Among the house keys was a small brass one, etched with a faint H that matched the cellar lock. Grandpa's warning echoed, but so did Dad's dying rasp. "Finish it, son. No loose ends." Curiosity is a thief. It whispers at rules off of other people, that one peek won't unravel the world. I told myself it was practical. Check for mold, vermin, anything that might tank the sale. The trapdoor was under a threadbare rug in the kitchen, the oak warped and splintered, hinges groaning like a dying breath as I pried it open. The key turned with a click that reverberated through the floorboards, and a gust of stale air rushed up, musty, laced with something sharper, like wet stone and forgotten meat. The wooden stays descended into blackness, steep and slick with age. I flicked on my phone's flashlight, the beam slicing through motes of dust that danced like spectral fireflies. 10 steps down, and the air thickened, pressing against my lungs. The walls were rough-hewn stone, mortared with crumbling lime, etched with faint scratches that might have been tools on nails. At the bottom, the floor leveled into packed date, the space no bigger than a walk-in closet. Shelves line one wall, empty jars, cobwebbed and cracked, remnants of preserves long rotted away. A single bulb dangled from the ceiling on frayed cord, but the switch did nothing. My light swept the corners, rusted tools, a splintered crate, and then, tucked behind a stack of mildewed burlap sacks, a narrow wooden panel, maybe 3 feet high, set into the far wall like a forgotten altar. That's when the whispering started. Not words, exactly, but a susurrus, like wind through dry reeds, rising from the cracks in the panel. I froze, heart hammering. Hello. My voice bounced back, mocking. Imagination, I thought. The house settling, pipes groaning. But the whispers grew insistent, threading through the damp air, pulling at me like invisible fingers. Against every screaming instinct, I knelt and traced the panel's edges. It wasn't nailed. It lifted free with a splintering creak, revealing a jagged hole punched into the stone, barely wide enough for a child, descending into utter void. The beam of my phone plunged in, illuminating. Nothing at first. Then, a glint. I leaned closer, the whispers coiling around my ears now, forming shapes. Names? Please? The light caught on something metallic, half buried in loose gravel 15 feet down. A locket, silver and tarnished, swinging gently on a chain as if breathed upon. My breath caught. It was identical to the one Grandma wore in faded photos, the one she lost in the war. Grandpa always said, though she died in childbirth long before any bombs fell. I reached in, fingers brushing cold earth, and snagged the chain. It came free with a rattle, dirt cascading like whispers made solid. The locket snapped open in my palm, revealing twin portraits, a young Elias, stern and unlined, beside a woman with my eyes, Grandma, but younger than I'd ever seen, her smile sharp as a secret. Tucked inside, folded tiny, was a yellowed note in Grandpa's spidery hand. E, it took you from me. Don't let it take another. The bargain was for blood, not souls. Burn this place. Burn it all. Bargain? The word hung like smoke. I pocketed the locket, the whispers surging into a frenzy. Hartwell, stay, hours, and backed away, slamming the panel shut. Up the stairs I bolted, sealing the trap door with trembling hands. The key twisted so hard it bent. That night, sleep evaded me. The house breathed, floorboards sighing under invisible weight. By dawn, resolve hardened. I needed answers. The attic yielded scraps, Grandpa's journals, brittle pages filled with frantic scrawl. Aldrich Hollow, 1923. The Great War had left him hollowed, debts piling like snowdrifts. The house, inherited from a great-uncle who'd vanished mid-harvest, whispered promises in the night, or so he wrote. The cellar spoke. One entry read, said it could fill the silos, mend the fences, make the land yield double, all for a drop of Hartwell blood, spilled willing. He confessed to the pact in delirium. A midnight cut across his palm, dripped into the hole behind the panel, where the earth drank it greedily. The farm thrived, crops bursting, cows heavy with milk, but the price mounted. Shadows lengthened indoors, livestock birth twisted young, and Grandma, she changed. Eyes like pits, he wrote. Whispers followed her. Then the fall. She hadn't died in childbirth. Grandpa had pushed her, or so the guilt bled through the ink. The bargain demanded more, fresh blood, bound by lineage. He'd walled off the hole, but it hungered, patient as rot. That's why the warnings. to spare me the inheritance of hunger. I burned the journals in the backyard fire pit, flames devouring secrets in acrid curls. But the house knew. That afternoon, as rain lashed the windows, the trapdoor rattled. Not wind, something pushing, wood bulging like a blister. I grabbed the axe from the shed, splintering the oak in frantic swings until the hole gaped, stairs crumbling into the dark. Gasoline from the garage sloshed down the ragged moor, followed by a match. The whoosh was biblical, orange tongues licking stone, smoke billowing like vengeful ghosts. The fire spread upward, devouring beams and walls. I stumbled out, coughing, the house groaning its last as sirens wailed in the distance. Eldridge Hollow's fire chief called it old wiring. Insurance covered the husk. I sold the lot for pennies, walked away with ash under my nails and the locket around my neck. A talisman or a curse, I can't say. Now, 2 years on, in my Boston apartment, the whispers have started again. Faint at first, from the vents, the floorboards. Last night, I found scratches on the baseboard. Hartwell, come home, in a hand not my own. The locket warms against my skin, and in the mirror, my eyes catch the light wrong, pitch deepening. Grandpa warned me for a reason. The bargain doesn't die with the house. It lives in the blood, and it's thirsty.